أفلا يتدبرون القرآن
ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا
أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Amma ba'd, we continue with Surah An-Nisa and with verses number 97 to 100. Verses number 97 to 100 from Surah An-Nisa, and the subject of Al-Hijrah. Al-Hijrah, migration. And what is the definition of Al-Hijrah as an Islamic perspective of the word, since it's mentioned in the Quran. And as we heard before, that Surah An-Nisa deals with those who are oppressed and those who were oppressed at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, ordered the believers to give the rights to those who are oppressed. So there are certain rulings when it comes to those who are weak and oppressed in any society. If there's no laws to back them up and to help them, like the orphans, like the women sometimes, and so on. So you would find the orders from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the perfect rulings in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, to give the rights to those who are weak and oppressed in any society. And sometimes the oppression comes in place, and those who are weak and they get to be oppressed by their enemies, and how to have a way for them out of oppression. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed these verses to the Prophet ﷺ, that hijrah is a way out for those who are oppressed. And it's an important concept in the religion of Islam, as we would see in the verses, that as Muslims, we're not supposed to be oppressed when it comes to matters of religion. The most important thing in our life is the religion of Islam. And for someone to be oppressed, not able to practice his religion, not able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the proper way, this is the worst thing that you would do to a believer. So if they're not able to fulfill this obligation because of their enemies, because of the evilness of other human beings, they would oppress them and would try to take them outside the fold of Islam and made them compromise their religion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it obligatory for them, for these believers, to migrate, to leave their homes, to leave the places that they love so much for the sake of Allah, to protect themselves, to protect their religion, to be able to practice the orders of Allah in a place where they will be left free to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So this is an important concept, and that's why, as we would see, any Muslim on any place on the face of earth, the most important thing for him is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person is oppressed in a certain place, not able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then if they have the means to migrate, to leave that place for a better place where they can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, then it becomes obligatory on them, as we would see inshaAllah ta'ala. So let's recite the verses and see what happened at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the reason why the verses were revealed, and to take the benefits from it, and how to act based on these verses. And the general meaning of al-hijrah, or migration, which is a way of life, even for the person that stays in his spot, he still has to do some form of hijrah, from evilness to goodness and so on. Verse number 97, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ قَالُوا فِيمَ كُنْتُمْ قَالُوا كُنَّا مُسْتَضْعَفِينَ فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا أَلَمْ تَكُنْ أَرْضُ اللَّهِ وَاسِعَةً فَتُهَاجِرُوا فِيهَا فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَأْوَاهُمْ جَهَنَّمْ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. Which means, indeed, those whom the angels take in death while wronging themselves, the angels will say, in what condition were you? They will say, we were oppressed in the land. The angels will say, was not the earth of Allah spacious enough for you to immigrate therein? For those, the refuge is hell, and evil it is as a destination. So this ayah, and the ones also comes after that, talks about a specific group of the believers. They are the ones that are weak and oppressed. And there is a reason why this verse was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. It was said that they were people in Mecca. They were Muslims living in Mecca when Mecca was still ruled by the disbelievers. And the Prophet ﷺ was in Al-Madinah, migrated to Al-Madinah, him and his companions radiallahu anhu. These Muslims left in Mecca. Whenever there's a war between the Prophet ﷺ and the people of Mecca, and the arrows will go from both sides, it would hit and might even kill some of these believers, some of the Muslims. They were oppressed so much that they were forced to join ranks with the disbelievers in their war against the believers. So as a result of that, some of them would die in the context of war because they are with the disbelievers. So the verses were revealed that إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ, those who the angels, they tawafahum, they take their souls at the moment of death. ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ, they are in a state of wronging their own selves. They are in a state of sin. ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ, they commit dhulm, they commit injustice to their own selves. And this can be either referred to disbelief or sins. But in this context, they were among the Muslims, but they wronged themselves. And the angels were taking their souls and would make them among those who are punished. قَالُوا فِيمَ كُنْتُمْ, the angels would ask them, what were your condition? What's your affair? Why you reached that state of evilness and wronging yourselves when you compromised your religion? Because they compromised their religion. Whatever they would fight against the believers, they would obey the orders of those who oppressed them, to compromise their religion, to join the disbelievers in their rituals of disbelief, for example, or to commit sins also comes under this category. And they would have the excuse that we're living in that society or whatever, and we have to be like everyone else. Otherwise, we would be harmed or we are oppressed and so on. So the angels would take their soul and they will be punished. And the angels would say to them, فِيمَ كُنْتُمْ, what were you doing? What's your condition? قَالُوا كُنَّا مُسْتَضْعَفِينَ فِي الْأَرْضِ, they would say and reply, we were mustad'afin, we were made weak on the face of earth. We were oppressed on the face of earth, oppressed by the oppressors, those who would force them to wrong themselves, force them to do and to say evil things against the orders of Allah. The angels would reply and would say, قَالُوا أَلَمْ تَكُنْ أَرْضُ اللَّهِ وَاسِعَةً فَتُهَاجِرُوا فِيهَا, they would say to them, wasn't the earth of Allah وَاسِعَةً, spacious enough for you to migrate to it, to go to a place where you're not oppressed? When you're not able to fulfill the orders of Allah, you can go to another place. And قَالُوا أَلَمْ تَكُنْ أَرْضُ اللَّهِ وَاسِعَةً فَتُهَاجِرُوا فِيهَا, so the angels are condemning them, that these people have no excuse because they had the means out. They had the means to protect themselves and to protect their own religion, but they chose to be oppressed and to be weak. فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَأْوَاهُمْ جَهَنَّمْ, these people, their abode is in the hellfire, and what a worse destination there is for them. This is a very interesting meaning here. Again, the incident was at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, these people were in Mecca, and the verses were revealed that they would receive the punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they were oppressed. So not every oppressed person is excused. Some of those who are oppressed, they are not excused. Why? Because they had the means to go out. They had the means to make hijrah. That's why hijrah is an act of worship. Hijrah is one of the aspects of the deen of Islam. The word hijrah means migration, to move from one place to the other permanently. This is what hijrah means, to reside in a different place. And al-hijrah, as an Islamic terminology, means to be moved from the dar of al-kufr, from the place of kufr and disbelief, to be among the believers. to depart, to distance yourself from living among the disbelievers to be with the believers. Especially it's mandatory when the person is oppressed. When a person would say he commits shirk, for example, associating partners with Allah, he commits sins and the excuse is, what can I do? This is the society that I live in. They're oppressing me. They are forcing me. And the list can go on and on. And if a person, for example, nowadays would say, or a woman would say, I cannot wear the hijab because I'm being oppressed. If I wear the hijab, they would harm me. They would fine me. They would put me to prison. They would kill me. Then the answer is it okay to then remove the hijab and disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, the answer is, if you have means to leave that place, to go to another place where you can practice the orders of Allah, where you can be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this hijrah is mandatory for you. If a person would say, I cannot raise my children in a good environment, they are teaching my children matters of disbelief and corrupting them and so on, what can I do? Because he's residing among the non-Muslims and so on. The answer is, if you're not able to do so, then it's mandatory for you to go somewhere, if you have the means, to go somewhere where you can raise them in the right way. Right? And it's not about materialistic benefit. As we would see in the verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised those who would save their religion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bestow His favors upon them. We are in need so much of these meanings, because again, as a Muslim has honor and dignity. The most important thing in our life is the religion of Islam. Is our religion, to protect our religion, to be able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when a person is oppressed in a specific place, if he has the means to leave and to go somewhere where he can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it becomes mandatory for the person to do so. And the ayah is clear in this. And the angels would take the souls of these individuals, those who accepted to be oppressed when they had the means to practice the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala somewhere else, but they chose to stay in their place. And as a result of that, they compromised the orders of Allah, they disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The angels of punishment will come and take their souls, even though the outside appearance of them, they look like they are being oppressed. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the next verse talks about the exception of this. Who are the real oppressed ones that they have an excuse? Verse number 98 after that says, إِلَّا الْمُسْتَضْعَفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ وَالْوِلْدَانِ لا يستطيعون حيلة ولا يهتدون سبيلا فأولئك عسى الله أن يعفو عنهم وكان الله عفوا غفورا. Which means, except for the oppressed among men, women and children, who cannot devise a plan, nor are they directed to a way, for those it is expected that Allah will pardon them, and Allah is ever pardoning and forgiving. So this is the exception. إِلَّا الْمُسْتَضَعْفِينَ. إِلَّا means except. Al-Mustada'afin, those who are oppressed from among men, women and children. Not just women and children, but also men. But with the condition, how they are oppressed and they are excused in that case, لا يستطيعون حيلة ولا يهتدون سبيلا. They have no hila. They have no device. They cannot have a plan. They don't have a way out of their situation. They're not able to migrate. They are oppressed, whether they are handicapped, whether they don't have the means to do so. وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ سَبِيلًا. And they are not directed to any way to change their status, to migrate physically from the land where they are oppressed. These people are excused. إِلَّا الْمُسْتَضْعَفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ وَالْوِلْدَانِ لَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ حِيلَةً وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ سَبِيلًا. So whether they are men, women and children, and they don't have a way out, then فَأُولَٰئِكَ عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَعْفُ عَنْهُمْ. These are the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will pardon them. And asa, if you look it up in an Arabic dictionary, it does not mean for certainty. But in the Quran, if asa comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that means it's for certainty. That for sure Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will pardon them. عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَعْفُ عَنْهُمْ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will pardon them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is عَفُوًّا غَفُورًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that pardons. And He's the one that forgives when a person has no means whatsoever. when a person would exert himself to do the best and to take all the means to protect one's religion, but the matter is over one's capacity, then there is no harm for such a person in that case, as the verse says. We'll continue inshallah ta'ala after the break, so stay with us.
يتدبرون القرآن أفلا يتدبرون القرآن.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursaleen, Nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We're still discussing the verses from 97 to 100 in Surah An-Nisa about the concept of al-hijrah, to migrate for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the verses talks about those who are oppressed and weak. And as a result of that, they will compromise their religion. And even harm might afflict them when they are in war against the believers, as it happened at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And at the moment of death, these people, those who compromised their religion, they were Muslims, but they compromised their religion as a result of being oppressed by those who are in power. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give them the excuse. When they had the means out, when they had the means to protect their religion by making hijrah, by traveling, by migrating from the land of oppression to a land where they can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to live among the believers and so on. Except those who are really oppressed, from among men, women and children, they have no way out. They cannot have a plan in which they would escape the place of oppression. Then they are the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would pardon them, would forgive them, as a result of the fact that they have no means whatsoever. And this is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned the hadith that the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in such a way that this ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not going to be questioned about something that it happened or done by mistake or forgetfulness, or they were forced or coerced to do something over their capacity. رُفِعَ عَنْ أُمَّتِي الْخَطَأُ وَالنِّسْيَانُ وَمَا اسْتُكْرِهُ عَلَيْهِ. That means my ummah, my nation, my people will be relieved. They won't be punished as a result of a matter that they made by mistake or forgetfulness, or if they were forced to do something. And this is an important aspect in matters of rulings, in matters of fiqh even, when a person is forced. Some things, there's no excuse for a person. One of which, if a person is forced to kill someone, to kill an innocent person, and he's forced, and he's told either to kill that particular person or will kill you. Is it permissible for that person to kill? And can he say that I'm oppressed, I'm forced? If I don't do it, they will kill me. The answer is, no, it's not permissible for him to do so. And if they kill him, then he's a martyr, inshallah ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would reward him. Why? Because the life of that other individual is not less precious than his own life. Why would he choose to take the life of someone to save his own life? This is not permissible. So this is something that sometimes a person has to face, these difficult situations. But when it comes to eating something haram, for example, if a person is oppressed and forced, either he would eat something haram or they would kill him, for example, then in that case it's forgiven for the person. It's mentioned in the Quran, or a person about to die and so on. But in general like this, if a person has the way out, imagine someone that is about to die, starving to death, and he has in front of him a piece of pork, haram for a Muslim to eat. And on the other hand, he has halal, permissible food for him to eat, to sustain his life. If he would say, I'm starving to death and I had to eat the pork, that's not permissible for him. He would get the sin of doing so. Why? Because he had another mean. He had another way for him to sustain his life by eating what is halal, what is permissible, even if he doesn't like it or it doesn't taste good or whatever there is. So the same thing, when a person is oppressed and forced to commit a sin or to live and to turn away from the deen of Islam, if that person has a way out to change his status by leaving the spot, leaving the place, even though it's difficult, and shaitan would whisper, of course, to the person, you would leave your land, you would leave your house, you would leave your wealth, your business, and where are you going to go? That you would face all kinds of difficulties. You become a stranger to the land that you're going to. and he would start from the ground level, and shaitan would promise that person poverty, and he would have so much loss and so on. But when the matter is so clear that he's doing that to save his religion, and it's only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of his mercy, in the next verse, verse number 100, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised the believers, those who would migrate for the sake of Allah, don't worry, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will suffice for you. But do it for the sake of Allah. Protect, make the most concern in your life, your religion. To save your religion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make ways out for you. As we would see in the next verse, verse number 100, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَنْ يُهَاجِرْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ يَجِدْ فِي الْأَرْضِ مُرَاغَمًا كَثِيرًا وَسَعَةً وَمَنْ يَخْرُجْ مِنْ بَيْتِهِ مُهَاجِرًا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ثُمَّ يُدْرِكْهُ الْمَوْتُ فَقَدْ وَقَعَ أَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. Which means, and whoever immigrates for the cause of Allah will find on the earth many alternative locations and abundance. And whoever leaves his home as an immigrant to Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then death overtakes him, his reward has already become incumbent upon Allah, and Allah is ever forgiving and merciful. So this is the blessings of the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The previous verses gave this picture, this image of those who are oppressed, and they are dying, and the angels of death are taking their soul, and they are giving them the bad news of punishment for them. And they were not, their oppression and their excuses were not accepted because they have a way out, except those who are truly oppressed when they did not have the means to leave the lands where they were oppressed in. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give this great news to those who are oppressed, to those who are not able to practice their deen of Islam in a place, to migrate for the sake of Allah. And when the shaitan whispers to them that you would lose this, you would lose that, you won't be able to sustain your life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يُهَاجِرْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, whoever make hijrah, فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, migrate, but with the condition, فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, for the sake of Allah, not for the sake of wealth or for the sake of worldly gain. Sometimes people, when they think of hijrah or migrating to a better place for them to be able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they think about the materialistic benefits of it. Would I get a better job? Would I get more money? Is the job that I'm going to is better for me wealth-wise? If it's not, if it's less, then he would find for himself many excuses. And he would be oppressed, and he would not be able to practice his religion, and he would choose the worldly benefit before the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is definitely not permissible. And if a person has the means to migrate, but fi sabilillah, for the sake of Allah, only to save one's religion, to be able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be able to fulfill the orders of Allah. And as we said, this can be different from one place to the other. There are places on the earth today where they would make laws against the believers, against the Muslims, to practice their religion, their basics of their religion. If they're not able to make salah, they're not able to pray 5 times a day, just for the fact that they shown as Muslims, they would kill them, for example. These people are oppressed in the land. If they have the means to migrate, then it's incumbent upon them. These people, those who were not able to, as we said, to wear hijab, or to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or forced to eat haram, forced to eat pork, for example, forced to break their fast in Ramadan. Some parts of the world, they would force the Muslims not to fast in the month of Ramadan. Then the ruling for these people is, if they're not able to fast and they're forced to do this, if they have means to go out and to go some other places where they can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala freely, then it becomes incumbent upon them, becomes mandatory for them. If they're not able to, then they might be excused. So the matter is different according to how and the level of oppression and so on. So the verse is to be applied till the Day of Judgment, not something that only happened at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, this is the certainty in the hearts of the believers, that it's always mentioned in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to comfort the believers. If you're about to do an act that might sound as a lot of sacrifice, hijrah, migrating, leaving your house and your wealth and leaving whatever for the sake of Allah, shaitan whispers, you're going to lose this and that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most merciful, reminding the believers, وَمَن يُهَاجِرْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, whoever migrates, فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. This is the significance of it. For the sake of Allah. What's going to happen to that person? يَجِدْ فِي الْأَرْضِ مُرَاغَمًا كَثِيرًا وَسَعًا. He would find فِي الْأَرْض, on the face of earth, مُرَاغَمًا كَثِيرًا وَسَعًا. Muraghaman means locations, places, many places that would host him, that he would be in goodness in if he would migrate for the sake of Allah. Wasa'a means an abundance in wealth. He would not lose. He would not die out of hunger. Why? Because he is trying to save his religion. And when a person is oppressed and compromising his religion as a result of this oppression, he loses a lot. And the worst loss whatsoever is the loss in one's religion. This is what we as Muslims, when we read the Quran and reflect upon the Quran, we would see that this is a clear concept that we all need to adopt and to have in our hearts. And that is, the Quran is clear that the most important thing in our life is our religion. And when we say our religion, it's not just that a person would save himself from being a disbeliever, but also in the details of our religion. Disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, haram, sinful acts are forbidden for us. And that's why Muslims should protect his religion, make sure that he do the obligations and stay away from haram. And if a person is in a place or situation where he is forced to commit a sin, to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then if he has a way out, then he has to take the way out. Otherwise, he's responsible for his actions. Whether it's simple act like bribery, for example. If he doesn't take bribery, they would fire him from his job. He has to do things for the sake of Allah. It is not permissible to do haram. If a person has a way out, he has to take the way out and to protect his religion and so on. So it's always a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whoever leaves something for the sake of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would replace it by something better. This is a fact. This is something that we need to remember at all times. And this is a statement that was mentioned by some of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, that the ulama gave the ruling of it as if the Prophet ﷺ is saying it, although it's not an authentic hadith directly from the Prophet ﷺ. مَنْ تَرَكَ شَيْئًا لِلَّهِ عَوَضَهُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا مِنْهُ. Whoever leaves something for the sake of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would replace it by something better. This is a fact. And this is what we need to really witness in our hearts, and that's the difference between the believers and others. That a person would leave something for the sake of Allah, he would see that it will be replaced by something better. يَجِدْ فِي الْأَرْضِ مُرَاغَمًا كَثِيرًا وَسَعًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised those who would migrate for the sake of Allah, make hijrah for the sake of Allah, but فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, for the sake of Allah. Not that it's in the heart, there's a portion of the heart says, as long as my life will be good and materialistic things, then this is where, then it's a good hijrah or not. It has to be only for the sake of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them abundance, will make ways out for them. وَمَنْ يَخْرُجْ مِنْ بَيْتِهِ مُهَاجِرًا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ثُمَّ يُدْرِكْهُ الْمَوْتُ فَقَدْ وَقَعَ أَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. And whoever goes out of his home, مُهَاجِرًا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, migrating to Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And see how it's mentioned in details. It's not an easy thing for a person to leave his home and to leave his belongings and so on. There's so much attachment for the person when he is raised and grow up in a certain place. We're always attached to these places. And for a person to leave it, it's not an easy matter. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran that mentioned it with killing oneself. That this is a severe test for a person. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, Surah An-Nisa also, when we discussed that, وَلَوْ أَنَّ كَتَبْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ أَنِ اقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ أَوْ اخْرُجُوا مِنْ دِيَارِكُمْ مَا فَعَلُوهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. If we had ordained upon them that they would kill themselves or to go out of their homes and their dwellings, only few among them would do so. So killing oneself is such a difficult thing, of course, and of course it's haram, it's forbidden in Islam for someone to kill himself. But imagine someone is ordered to do that. It's a very difficult thing. And once that mentioned, the other thing is mentioned with it, or to go out of their homes. You know, it's also a very difficult thing. But sometimes if it's done for the sake of Allah, a person has to go out of his home, to leave his home, to abandon his home. What would make a believer do that? If only one thing, and that is if his religion is being compromised. Because the religion is the most important thing in our life. So وَمَنْ يَخْرُجْ مِنْ بَيْتِي مُهَاجِرًا, whoever goes out of his home, muhajiran, but in the state of hijrah, migrating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to his messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. At the time of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the hijrah was to Al-Madinah, so they would go physically to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that means it's fi sabilillah, for the sake of Allah, to save one's religion. And the same thing is valid till the Day of Judgment. If a person would migrate to protect his own religion and to migrate to the Prophet ﷺ to apply the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then ثُمَّ يُدْرِكُهُ الْمَوْتِ. If that person died in the process of doing so, he did not reach his destination yet, and he died on the way. And this has happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when a companion, he died on the way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verse, فَقَدْ وَقَعَ أَجْرُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. His reward is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means he did not lose anything. He's given his reward in full. And this is by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll continue with that meaning and the benefits from the verses after the break. So stay with us, inshallah ta'ala.
يتدبرون القرآن أفلا يتدبرون القرآن.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. With the verses from 97 to 100 in Surah An-Nisa that talks about the aspect of hijrah, migrating for the sake of Allah to save one's religion, as it happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and it continued to happen till the Day of Judgment, where the oppressed, this is the way out for them if they have the means to protect their religion. The most important and the most precious thing in one's life is to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to stay away from what brings the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised those who would migrate for His sake to protect their religion that they would find abundance on the face of earth. They would find places. Sometimes people, they think, but there's no place to go to. If a person would do it for the sake of Allah, sincerely for the sake of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will find a way for that person. But the person needs to be sincere, that he's not doing it for some worldly gain, but rather to be only for the sake of Allah. And whoever do that, and in the process of doing so, he dies. And that happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So the verses were revealed that the rewards is given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the reward is already given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once a person sets himself out, and this is the sign of truthfulness. That's why the ayah says, وَمَنْ يَخْرُجْ. Whoever physically go out from his home in the state of migration. Not someone that is sitting wishfully thinking that he wants to migrate, that he wishes that he migrate, and so on. This is not it. A person that is truthful, and he took the means, and he start taking the steps to do this act, and then death falls upon him, then his reward is given in full. This is another aspect that is mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in the meaning of which that whoever goes out for his salah, for example, goes out to make salah, if he dies, his reward is given in full. And if he returns to his home, he will get his reward in full. And the same thing when someone would be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he went out for the sake of Allah, to migrate for the sake of Allah, his reward will be given in full. And we have the famous story that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about the man that killed 100 human beings. And he was told by the alim, by the person of knowledge, that he has to migrate. He has to go to such and such land where there are pious people, where they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, to stay with them. So when he migrated, when he went out, he was not wishfully thinking that he wants to do this, but rather he went out and he walked. And he left his town, and soon after that, death falls upon him, and the angels of mercy disputed with the angels of punishment, who to take his soul. The angels of punishment, they said he did not migrate yet. He did not do this act of repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that showed that he distanced himself from the land of evil and so on, and he did not do anything good. And the angels of mercy, they said, but he repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent an angel, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, but it's in such a way for us to learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent an angel to be a judge among them, and He said to them, measure the distance between the two towns. Whatever closer town he is to, then the angels will take his soul accordingly. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the earth to shrunk, and He made that person to be close to the land of the pious and the righteous ones, and as a result of that, the angels of mercy, they took his soul. So this is an example where a person left something for the sake of Allah, but he went physically, he started his actions, his reward is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why also the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the authentic hadith some details about this, that whoever went out, that physically went out for hijrah, to migrate for the sake of Allah, if he dies, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him the reward in full. If he falls from his camel and the camel killed him, he will be given the reward in full. If he gets sick and died, his reward will be given in full, and so on, to comfort the believers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would reward them. فَقَدْ وَقَعَ أَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. His ajr, his reward is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most forgiver, the most merciful. He forgives the sins of His slaves, and He is the most merciful subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wants to have mercy on them. And the forgiveness and the mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes when a person would do things according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered, and never to have bad expectations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a great example of this. Many people on the face of earth, they would choose to be oppressed. They would choose to compromise their religion, not just because they're oppressed and there's a sword on their neck, otherwise they will be killed if they obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but sometimes it's because of to save themselves from mockery, for example. They don't want to be ridiculed by others, so they would disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes in even some levels of where people are sitting together and they start backbiting others, and those who are sitting with them, they know that this is a ghiba, they know that this is backbiting, but they don't want to be like an outcast or people to ridicule them, so they would be, or they be oppressed among them, and they would not forbid the evil. They would not leave such a gathering where there's a sin is being committed, and out of the shyness from others or whatever. This is not how the believers should act. They should leave things for the sake of Allah. And if they do that, and they seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring all kinds of goodness opposite to what they think, that shaitan whispers to them that you will be outcast, that you will be ridiculed, and so on. So even in the small details of actions, we have to apply this concept. To leave things for the sake of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would replace it by something better, but with the condition that we know with matters of knowledge that what we are leaving, we are ordered to leave. So we need to ask the people of knowledge, we need to know what is halal and what is haram, and also to ask them when it comes to matters of actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in the authentic hadith, when he was asked about the best hijrah, and afdal hijrah, the best hijrah, the best migration, what is the best migration? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, the best migration, and tahjur ma naha Allahu an, that you would migrate, depart, distance yourself from what Allah forbade you from doing. So the hijrah as a concept is not just physical movement from one place to the other, but also to leave sins. And when we put this in comparison, when the Sahaba radiallahu anhum migrated from Mecca to Al-Madinah, they left their homes and their wealth and their relatives and loved ones only for the sake of Allah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered them to make hijrah, there was no hesitation whatsoever. They migrated for the sake of Allah. What happened to the companions radiallahu anhum? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them steadfastness, made them strong on their religion, and gave them abundance in matters of rizq and provisions. They became superior in the land. They received great benefits and booties of the war and so on. And they were praised, and they are praised till the day of judgment because of their struggle and striving with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, and they were successful. And the same thing when a believer would do for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, that they distanced themselves and they left things for the sake of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replaced it by something else. They would not go back to Mecca. They would not go back to Mecca. The Prophet ﷺ had forbade them from returning back after they left it for the sake of Allah, even though Mecca became a land of Islam. And it's the best spot on earth. The companions, the muhajireen, those who migrated away from it, from the people of Mecca, they kept their hijrah, they kept their migration till the moment of death. And when one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, Sa'd ibn Khawla radiallahu anh, the Prophet ﷺ, when he went to Mecca for Hajj, he did not stay there for more than 4 days, so that he does not become among those who would reside in Mecca, so that his hijrah, his migration will continue to be in place. And the Prophet ﷺ, when Sa'd ibn Khawla radiallahu anhu migrated or traveled with the Prophet ﷺ to Mecca, and he was originally from the people of Mecca, but he died there. The Prophet ﷺ was sad that Sa'd ibn Khawla died in Mecca and not died away from it when he migrated away from it, although he had no excuse. He had excuse in this, of course, that is not his fault. But still, to show how they would protect and guard their deed and not to break this status of being from the muhajireen. It was a great level. Until the Day of Judgment, we always hear about the muhajireen and the ansar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised the muhajireen, those who migrated with the Prophet ﷺ, and they are in general of a higher level than the people of Al-Ansar or the people of Al-Medina, because of that status that they were in. They were given this attribute, Al-Muhajireen, those who migrated with the Prophet ﷺ, left everything for the sake of Allah. That's how they were elevated. And the hijrah is present till the Day of Judgment, from the land of disbelief to the land of believers. And also when it comes to sins, when a person leaves the sins, leave it the same way that a migrant would leave his town. He does not go back to it. He leaves it. Doesn't matter if he loses or not. Like a person leaves his home and wealth and so on for the sake of Allah. The life of sin is an evil one. So when a believer is ordered to leave it for the sake of Allah. And have good expectations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not abandon you if you would leave something that He forbade you from doing. How many times that a person will continue to earn haram and to live in haram out of the bad expectations of Allah that he would lose if he would leave the haram. This is evil thinking. Someone that is selling drugs or selling wine or having stores and selling all kinds of things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade, he thinks that if he repents to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will beg on the streets because he has no any source of income. This is bad expectations of Allah. If it's haram, leave it for the sake of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the bestower. He is Ar-Razzaq. He's the one that provides for us. And if He forbade us of something, then leave it for the sake of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would replace it by something better, but be patient. Do it only for the sake of Allah. So this is a true meaning and a fact in our life, that Al-Hijrah is a way of life that we all have to adapt, and we have to be in that state of Hijrah. We leave sins. We leave the places of sins for the sake of Allah. We leave the land where people are committing evilness and a person is oppressed, unless a person is giving da'wah, calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or for a valid reason he resides, to learn knowledge to benefit the believers, to seek cure, for example. You know, it's always temporary, but for someone to reside and to be oppressed and to compromise the religion and so on, this is something, as we see in the verses, is forbidden. And also, if a person is in Mecca or in Medina, that Muslim also have to be in state of hijrah to migrate away from sins and from disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives. So these verses teaches us great meanings, and it changes our life. We really need to see this. This is the cure of oppression. There are so much forms of oppression on the face of earth. One of the ways to eradicate that and to cure ourselves from it is to migrate, to leave things for the sake of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you something that is better than that. And it shows that the angels that are angels of death, those who would take the souls of the human beings. And also it shows that tawaffahum, the word tawaffahum, those who the angels take their souls, the word tawaffa, usually translated as those who would die. But the word tawaffa has significance to it. It means a person dies after fulfillment of whatever is given and decreed for that person. Nobody will die less time than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for him. If a person died in a car accident, that person was meant for him to die on that particular time, whether he died in a car accident or not. He died in full measure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for him, and so on and so forth. So for the believers to have their hearts rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their concern is to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as a fact, a believer should never accept oppression whatsoever in the sense that would make him compromise his religion. We're not talking about oppression that makes a person evildoer by revolting and causing chaos and bloodshed. This is not what we mean by this. We mean by this by being able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the concern of the believers, and whatever they are being oppressed with that regard, and they have means out, then they should act according to this. And this is a call to all our brothers and sisters to hold fast to their religion and to learn from the Quran and from the ways of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions radiallahu anhum, that we need to be steadfast on the deen of Islam and seek help and pleasure from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make His benefit and forgive our sins. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا.
أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا.
أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا. يتدبرون القرآن
ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا.